Welcome to today's episode. Today, we're diving deep into what it truly means to write through the wreckage, how desperate moments can transform into lifelines, and how creativity can be a form of survival.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here and to talk about the darker side of creation, the kind of art that comes from those lonely, panicked hours when nothing else seems to make sense. Sometimes what gets written in those moments is the only thing holding you together.
Absolutely. There's something compelling about art that isn't born out of peace or comfort, but from chaos, heartbreak, and raw perseverance. That brings me to your work, specifically your novel and the accompanying album. You've shared that these two projects were created side by side. Can you talk about how that process unfolded for you?
To be honest, none of it was planned. It all started during a really difficult time. Let's call it survival mode. There were nights I couldn't sleep, nights when panic attacks or grief kept me awake long after midnight. I tried reaching out to people, but sometimes you're beyond words, so I turned to writing. Some nights I wrote scenes for the novel, trying to capture River's journey in the velvet mask. Other nights I just poured my feelings into lyrics. Eventually, the two started bleeding into each other. River became an extension of myself, a mirror. The songs, more often than not, said the things I couldn't let River admit on the page.
That must have taken an emotional toll, having to revisit and relive all of those painful moments through your art. Was it ever too overwhelming?
Overwhelming is probably an understatement. Some chapters were almost impossible to write. People talk a lot about catharsis, but to be honest, it didn't feel healing at first. It was more like exposure therapy. You're right in your pain, picking it apart, not knowing whether you're going to make it through.
It sounds like you kept going even when it felt impossible. What kept you pushing forward?
There were a lot of reasons, but the biggest one was my mother. She passed away just before I started writing again, and I think a part of me was writing for her. She'd always wanted to see me finish what I started, to see me go after what mattered. And then there was Kate, the character and the person I lost. In some ways, I was talking to both of them through the writing. I knew I couldn't get those old versions of myself or them back, but creating the art let me keep them close. It felt like speaking into the void and hoping someone, somewhere, heard me.
Can you remember the first piece you wrote that really felt honest, that felt like it was coming directly from your experience?
Absolutely. There's a scene in the novel where River collapses. That wasn't fiction. I wrote that practically word for word from my own life, how I was just walking and my body gave out from the weight of it all. I still remember everything about it, the antiseptic smell, the humming of the lights, the awful realization that no one actually knew I was there. That was the moment the whole project changed. It stopped being a story and started being a confession.
Moving over to the music, how did those songs come together? Were there any moments when lyrics or melodies arrived out of nowhere?
Oh, all the time. I would be just sitting there, overwhelmed by grief or exhaustion, and melodies would just appear, little fragments, sometimes just a couple words. I'd quietly record them on my phone so I wouldn't lose them. Some became full songs, others were just musical scars, evidence that I'd been through something. The album ultimately came together the way trauma heals, messy, slow, and unpredictable. I had to find a way to let River, and by proxy myself, have a voice.
Listeners have talked about how the lyrics in your songs feel like diary entries, confessions set to music. There's a line that really resonates. I touched love like a live wire, and I still smell the smoke. It's vivid and aching. Can you tell us where that came from?
That line was about what it meant to really feel again after being numb for so long. Loving someone after that kind of emptiness doesn't feel safe or gentle. It feels electric, almost dangerous, but also beautiful. You don't forget that initial shock or the scars it leaves. I wanted to capture that electrifying, burning feeling, how once you've touched real love, its impact lingers, for better or worse.
Do you think even now you're still writing for her? For the version of her who once loved you?
Without a doubt, not just for her as she was, but for the person she became in my memories, the one who looked at me and didn't see something broken. It's a way of keeping her with me, of believing that somewhere she's still listening. I think I have to believe that, otherwise I wouldn't be able to keep making this kind of art.
Some have said your work is too raw, too emotional, even too personal. How do you feel about those reactions?
Good, honestly. I think we've had enough safe art, enough music and stories that hide their messiness. Real grief is overwhelming. real love, and real loss, too. I'm not interested in creating sanitized, easy emotions. If my work makes people uncomfortable, that probably means it's making them feel something real. I'd rather people have an honest reaction, even if it's negative, than for it to pass them by unnoticed.
Was there ever a moment when you hesitated, worried about how much to reveal, especially knowing the people involved might hear it?
All the time. The scariest part was thinking she might listen, or that the people who hurt me would see themselves in my words. But in the end, the messages from strangers kept me going. People who reached out and said the book or the album helped them, that they felt less alone, that they saw themselves in River's story. That's really the only thing that made the risk worth it.
Earlier, you said this process didn't feel like healing, just surviving. Do you feel any differently now?
Maybe a little. I'm still somewhere in the middle. Still afraid, still hurting, but I'm still writing. I'm still singing. That's progress, even if it's slow. Sometimes surviving is enough. Sometimes all we can do is keep moving, and that's okay.
I want to finish with a quick prompt. Complete this sentence for us. The Velvet Mask is...
The Velvet Mask is a confession. It's a graveyard. It's a love story that couldn't be saved, so it was sung instead.
Thank you for sharing your story and your art with us. Next time, we'll explore what comes after creation, the challenges of unexpected recognition, living behind a mask, and the courage it takes to stay visible when the world is suddenly paying attention. Remember, you're allowed to grieve, you're allowed to love out loud, and you're allowed to turn your wreckage into something beautiful. Thanks for listening.
You said it's not you with your eyes half shut, but I still traced you through the static and the cut. You walked away like it was easy.